In this video, we're going to look at the conversations area of your platform. So firstly, we'll look at what all the different buttons here do on this platform in the conversations area, and then we'll dive in and have a little bit more of an advanced look about how you actually use this area. So looking at the interface here on the conversations menu, you'll see right up the top there are options to change between conversations, manual actions, templates, and trigger links. Okay, so these topics are actually covered in different videos. I will touch on templates briefly in this, but just so you know, these sort of navigate within sub-functions of conversations area here. And then now we have on the left-hand side, we have three filters, if you like, about how to look at your messages. You have the unread column, and when you click on the unread column, you'll just see messages that are unread, basically. Now, one thing to notice that's important about how this works is that an unread message is anything that you haven't either manually replied to or clicked mark as read. Okay, so on the right-hand side of the screen here, you'll see we've got mark as read. So if I clicked on that mark as read, that would remove it. Alternatively, I can reply down the bottom here with a message and send just here, and that would mark it as read. Okay, when you are using automated messages, and say an automation through a workflow sends a text message or an email, for example, even though that comes after the response from the contact, it won't actually mark it as read unless you've activated that setting in the workflow, okay, which is a more advanced step in workflows. So basically, if you're looking here and you're wondering why you're clicking on messages or you're seeing messages that you've sent and you're wondering why is it unread here, it's because at some point that contact sent you a message and there's been no manual response to them, nor have you clicked mark as read. So in order to keep this tidy, either reply manually, or if you don't need to, then just simply hit mark as read. The recents column will simply show you more recent messages, as in the most recent messages, and all will actually show you the most recent messages. And you can keep scrolling down and down and down to quickly go and see load more, etc., to see more messages. Now on the right hand side here, you'll see this archive button. Basically what that does is if you archive a message, it moves it from recents into all, and if you unarchive a message, it moves it from all into recents. It's another distinction between the all and recents column. Most likely, the most practical way to use this area is just to manage your unread messages and use those as basically messages that need to be handled. Everything else can either sit in recent or all. Mark as unread will put it back, put that conversation back in the unread column, and delete will actually delete the conversation. Next, in the center main area here, we see the actual conversation. So you can scroll up and down in this area to view the recent messages that have been sent back and forth. If it's an email, you'll see these little three gray dots here, and you can click on that to expand the email, and then click on it to collapse it again. In regards to sending emails, you can technically reply to an email to continue that chain with that person, or you can just start a brand new email in this area down here. This will default to putting your name and your login email here in the from address. So this is really important to note, because if your login email to the system is not the email that you want to be public facing, you will need to adjust it in this area here. Otherwise that will send, but otherwise you can certainly change this to whatever you need it to be just by editing this field here as to the from email that you're sending from. Subject line is the subject from the email, and then down here you have the email editor that you can insert your email. If you have created yourself a signature block in your settings under your profile, then that signature block will insert here when you go to send an email. Next here we have the option to send text messages, so that's your SMS, so you can simply type your message here. One useful feature here is that you can insert dynamic fields here. Okay, these are covered in detail in the workflow videos, but you can basically put in, for example, contact first name, things like that. Details about your team. There are a lot of different options you can use here, but generally you can just type your message here. You can also use the attach feature here, and you've also got the emoji area just here as well. Additionally, this is where you can use templates. So down the bottom there is this little document icon, and that's how to use a template. Now templates are actually set up the top here, which is where I will just touch on this extra function here, templates, where you can add in certain templates. So for example here, I've got this template here, SHP attended generic negative. So I'm going to edit this just to explain how this works. Hi, sorry to hear, address concerns, regards. Okay, now one of the things you can actually do here is you can actually put the contact's name in, and we can go insert contact first name. And what that'll do is it'll actually insert the contact's first name when you hit send. Then in this case we've got brackets address concerns. That's actually a note to us to actually fill that bit in, and I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to save this here. I'll go back to the conversations, and this time I'm going to select the template. I'm going to go use template, and I'll use this generic negative. And you can see it doesn't send the message straight away. What it does is it inserts the template as it is. Now if I don't touch this at all, it will actually insert the contact's name when it sends. But I can now come in here and put in, here is the custom reply about the problems, or whatever it was, right? And then regards, and then you could put in your name, for example, all right? And then you could hit send, okay? And that would send that message. Now, if you have connected with this contact via Facebook Messenger or Instagram direct message, you'll also see options to send a Facebook message and Instagram direct message. Just be aware that with Facebook messages, for example, there are restrictions on how the integration works with Facebook in terms of sending replies to a contact from a business page. There are date limitations, which are usually 7 days. So if you find that a message isn't sending for Messenger, it may be that the actual contact has not messaged you in the last 7 days, and that's why that will cause that error. Text message and email, of course, there's no problems there. You can always send whenever you need. Now, there's also another little button here at the bottom which I'll explain, which is this request payment option. And what this will do is generate the payment link invoice. Okay, so this is where you can basically create an invoice on the fly, and you can put in what the items are. So if we show you here, test item, we can add in another one. Second item, for example, you can put a price for what these are. You can choose to put an invoice date in if you want. Okay, so, or you can leave that blank. In this case, let's put in an example date. You can say that it does expire, or it does. You can say it does not expire, or you can select an expiration date. We're going to leave this does not expire. And in additional options, you can put this in test mode or live. Okay, so using this feature will require you to at least to connect Stripe in your settings, which is covered in another video. Once you create this and hit save, what it will do is it'll generate a short link here in the message, which the contact can click and pay directly from the message. So what does that look like? Let's just show you briefly here. Okay, so this will bring up an invoice with your brand on the top of it, which the people can pay, in this case via Google Pay or with credit card. And they can also click on view invoice details to see the exact itemized area about that invoice. The next area I'll show you in this conversations area is the right hand side here, where you'll see all the contact details and some extra details about that. It's not a full contact card, but we can basically see their contact details, their name, phone number, email, what tags they have, their DND status. So the DND toggle, if you flick it on, means they're opted out of all marketing campaigns. What it does is it means that you can no longer send messages at all to that contact. You can try to send a message, but it won't actually send through. So that's how you basically opt someone out in one click. Underneath that, it says active campaigns and workflows. So here, whatever workflows that contact is in will show there. In this case, we see that they're in a phone booking nurture contact sequence. We can hit, there's two buttons here, 3 little boxes. If you click that, it'll take you into the workflows area, into the status, and show you where exactly in that workflow that contact is at. The next little icon there is a little blue X, and if you click that X, it'll ask you if you want to remove that contact from that workflow. Further down, if the contact is in a opportunity stage in a pipeline, it'll show you that stage. and there's a little edit icon there that you can choose to edit that pipeline right there. Now that's covered in another video, how pipeline stages work. So I'm going to move on to the next buttons here, which is create opportunity, which means that you can click that button and add them to a pipeline by putting in their details there. Again, I refer to the opportunity videos to see how opportunity cards work. And the book appointment button, okay, which I will show you the book appointment button here. So what happens here when you click book appointment is it'll bring up the new calendar modal where you can select which calendar you'd like to book on. If it is a team calendar, then you can also select the team member that you want to book with. Otherwise, leaving it on calendar default will just book with either the priority of who's available or the round robin situation, whatever you've set in your calendar settings. You can then select what view you want to see the appointments in. That will default to your account time zone, so you don't likely need to change that. However, you will see on the right hand side what it looks like in the contacts time zone if they are in a different time zone. So in this case, we see we're looking at 8:45 a.m. and it's 8:45 a.m. for the contact as well. However, if that contact was in a different time zone, then it'll show what it would be for them. Underneath that, you can edit the appointment title. Otherwise, you can leave that blank and it will just book the appointment with the title of the appointment as set in the calendar settings. So normally you can just leave that blank. Sorry, just going back one step here. When you select the date and the time, this will show the available time slots as per the calendar availability. So in this case, on the Friday, I have these slots from 8:45 through till 8:40 p.m. Now, if for some reason you actually want to book a custom time that's outside the normal availability, you can do so. So if I wanted to say in this case, I want to make a booking for 8 a.m., what I can do is hit the custom button here, and then this changes it to a date time selector that I can customize everything. So now I can select the date and I can select the exact time, just like that. And then if I want to, I can even customize the end time as well. And then I can go ahead and book the appointment. If you want to, you can click standard there and go back to the standard slots, and that will simply show you. The real advantage to booking with the standard appointments is that it'll avoid any sort of clashes, because if there is a spot that's unavailable, it won't show here. This is basically showing what the client would see if they were booking on the contact facing calendar. And then finally on this view, I'll just show you the additional preferences here, which is whether you set the meeting location as to what's in the calendar, or you can set a custom meeting location right here. Appointment status, by default, this will set to confirmed, which is usually what you'll have set as your trigger for workflows, but you can set it as unconfirmed, which will generate an email to you requiring that, to the user, requiring them to confirm the appointment before any workflows trigger that are waiting for a confirmed appointment status. And the very last thing I'll show you from the conversations area is how you actually get to the contact record from here. Just very quickly here, this will be covered in the contacts video as well, but very quickly, if you click on the circle above the contact's name, it will actually open that contact record in full just here. So what this does is brings you to the contact card screen, where on the left hand side you can see all their contact details. In a little bit more detail here. So here we see their member offers as well. We see past campaigns and workflows. These work as a drop down, so you can toggle that on and off. You can see what opportunity stages they're in. In the center, and you also see their general info, so a lot more information about them, and additional info, which might be whatever fields they've filled out in various forms. There's a very useful feature here called hide empty fields. And when you click that, it'll hide all the empty fields and you'll just see what they've actually filled out. Moving on to the center, you'll see a slightly compressed version of the conversation area. Up the top here, we have the green phone button that you can click to actually call the person. You can assign the contact to a particular user just here with assign to, or if they are already assigned, you'll see that staff member just there as well. Here we have the markers unread button or the markers read button, depending on what stage that status that conversation's in. And then these details on the right, what we see is activity, which is tracking activity of what pages they've visited, what forms they've completed, basically what actions they've made. Okay, and so you'll see a lot of information there depending on how you're using the platform. Under tasks, you'll see any outstanding tasks that are due for this person. If you want to create a task, you just do that just here. You can set the title, description, what team member it's assigned to, and the due date. That task will then sit on the dashboard. In notes, that's very simple. You can create notes on the contact just here. Note that any notes here will also show on the opportunity card for that contact as well. And then you have appointments. So this will show any past appointments for this contact and any current appointments here. And you can actually edit that appointment from here as well if we had one. And finally, just there, you can actually add a new appointment there as well, just like clicking the book appointment button on the previous screen. So that's it for the conversations area and a very brief overview of how to get to the contact card and what you see there. And I will see you in the next video.